It was dramatic. It was fun. It was thrilling. It was exciting. And when I use the term fun at times, but not in the end, Miami goes down in a barn burner at North Carolina with a furious rally toward the end to make it close at 45-42 and have a shot at winning at Chapel Hill, but couldn't quite get it done. We will tear up the good and the bad from that one and look ahead to North Carolina State and everything involving Miami football. And at this point in the season, considering the record and the outlook and the talk out there, it extends far beyond the box scores of either one of these games. That's for sure. We got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. As always, this is the guy that makes this show happen. We hope you'll show your appreciation and understand what Cam delivers here each and every week. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Good evening, one and all. I'm chilling. Can't complain. I mean, well, in a sports context, I can definitely complain. You know, Hurricanes keep losing. Pistons superstar Cade Cunningham is not going to play in the opener because of an ankle that he rolled in preseason. You know, the Lions continue to, lions up and everything. So, yeah, not great in a sports context, but in a personal context, I'm good.
Well, if you have to select one of two, then you certainly make that selection. Because I know you love your Canes, but yes, the personal life is a bit more important. So,
Absolutely.
Getting to this Miami football team, my goodness, before we tear apart this North Carolina game, is this about as bad as you would have guessed it could possibly be if we were having this discussion mid-August?
This is
thinking,
worse.
Yeah, I was in the midst of asking that question, and I was about to rephrase it. Yeah.
No, sorry to cut you off, but just
Yeah.
thinking, I mean, is this, worst case scenario that we talked about preseason, that we wrote about on State of the U, like, if everything went as bad as it possibly could go, how bad would it be? The current state of affairs is worse than what we discussed here and what we wrote on the website. I mean, 2-4 overall, 0-2 in the league. You got a good chance to go 0-4 in the league and be at 2-6. Not the next time that we talk, but coming up. North Carolina State 5-1, already beat Clemson. They're 2-0 in the league. They're coming in here now. Barely got by them last year. They're playing very much better than they were last year, and definitely better than Miami's playing. And then you go to Pittsburgh, who's ranked. They got 17th year starter Kenny Pickett, who, again, famously ruined Miami's undefeated season way back in 2017. He's still there for whatever number of year it is, and they're playing amazingly, and he is playing amazingly, which is not something I ever thought I would see from Kenny Pickett, who is extra regular. I mean, he is not – he's going to he can hold a clipboard in the NFL for a long time. Maybe spot start or whatever, but he's not a superstar at all. But he's playing like a superstar this year. So now you're going to go back up there to the house of horrors that is Heinz Field, where, again, dreams went to die in 2017. Other times where we've gone up and lost there. And that's coming up next week. This is why I said a couple weeks ago, I don't think that Manny Diaz is making it to Halloween. Like, you play on the 23rd, you play on the 30th. Like, maybe he gets fired on Halloween Day, but, like, I don't think he makes it to November 1st. Like, this is not every, but the question that I asked this year in the preview piece on State of the U, the roundtable was non-De'Aaron King division. What player can you not lose? Because we all know that De'Aaron King was the straw that stirred the drink. He transformed the offense. So we all knew, okay, he's the one you cannot lose. And who else? You lost him. You lose Cam Harris. You lose Corey Gaynor. You lose Donald Chaney Jr., who I still believe should have been the starting running back over Cam Harris to begin with. You had Jalen Knighton out for 4 weeks. He finally came back and played the last 2 games, looking like incredible, like he was in all through high school. Again, one of only 2 running backs in Broward County history to eclipse 5,000 career rushing yards total. The other is the late, great Tyrone Moss from Pompano Beach, Ely, God rest his soul. He's playing well, but, now you're down to a guy who was one of the many incredible running backs we had at the top of the rotation, is the only one remaining. You lose games that, with all due respect to these other teams, you shouldn't have lost. If Miami's going to be Miami, I'm sorry. And even in an average year, you should be maybe 3-3 right now. You know what I mean? Like not 2-4, 0-2, and such and such. So, yeah, this is worse than the worst case scenario heading into the year. Because what you figured the worst case scenario would be 7-5. You know, like absolute rock bottom floor. You're 60 minutes away from being 2-5, potentially looking at 2-6. And then going on and on. I mean, God forbid if we lose to Florida State, who I still think are the dregs of the earth. I still do not think that they are good at all. But pot kettle kind of situation going on right now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that this is worse than what I thought the worst case scenario could have been, and I don't know that it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, when you bring up all those injuries, and I seem to make this statement often, I wish, because I want context with those amount of injuries to that quality of player. And I would love somebody would have to take this on and it would be exhaustive. What should be the expectation for a college football season in any particular team in the Power Five in sustaining injuries? What would that number be and to what quality of player? But what you just read off sounds like a severely inordinate amount of injuries and to quality players.
Yeah, it is. It's more than a little bit. And you have guys who have missed time during games as well. You've had other guys who have missed games and come back. Keontra Smith missed 3 games. Jared Harrison Hunt missed 2. Jordan Miller missed 2. Tyreek Stevenson missed the better part of half of the game against Virginia, with a hamstring. But other guys, and not even for targetings this year. Amari Carter, I have no idea if he's even playing because usually he gets a targeting every third tackle attempt. But not even missing for that. You have other embedded injuries. I'll call them embedded, the ones that happen for a couple of games or in a game. You've had more of those as well on top of these season enders. And again, they're inordinately on the offense. So more over there than on defense, which is what it is. But your quarterback, your number 1 running back, the number 2 running back, who I really thought should be the number 1 running back, and your starting center, all gone for the year. That's a lot.
Yeah, I certainly thought that this was the best running back room, definitely in the conference and beyond. One of the best in the country.
Yeah, and then the top 2 from that room are now gone for the year.
And again, anytime you sustain a quarterback injury to a guy that was projected to be, even if you weren't a Big D or a King fan, you could not place him any lower than 15th in the country coming into the season. So, yeah, I don't want to say no teams in this country can sustain that, but very, very few. And then even those teams that could sustain it would not be reaching the level of play that is their standard.
Right.
If they lose their number 1 quarterback and 2 of their top 3 running backs, and then all the other injuries that you just laid out. So when we look at the North Carolina game, I didn't see it start to finish. I watched intently the fourth quarter and then went back through the cut down version. And so what stands out? And I'm going to point you toward quarterback first and foremost, because that's obviously the point of interest in regards to, is this guy possibly the guy of the future?
I mean, Tyler Van Dyke has skills. He does. Through the first half, however, he was 5 for 15 with 2 interceptions. And let's see, 12, 16, 26, 49, 5 for 15 for 49 yards and 2 picks in the first half. That's no one's kind of good enough. And whether it's not calling the right plays, whether it's not giving the right route combinations, not using things that he's good at, also not getting helped by the offensive line, not getting helped by the run game, because Cam Harris played in this game and then got sustained his season-ending injury. Jalen Knighton, in this game as well. But in the second half, things started to go a little bit better for Tyler Van Dyke. and everything up until, the last throw of the day, which happened to be the game-losing interception on that RPO. But you started to see the ability to push the ball down the field a little bit. You saw them go to that smash concept, which I talked about before, that it makes life easy for a quarterback. When you have a high-low read, which is what smash is. You run a corner route by one, and you have a curl or a stop or a Z out or whatever underneath that. And you're reading it high-low. And it's funny, I went to a watch party with some of my friends, which is why I did not write The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, because we stayed there and we drank a lot. And I had to work on something, whatever. They're like, oh, no, he has to look him off. He has to look him off. While you're reading a high-low, I can be looking the same direction. You know what I mean? And then I'm looking and seeing, okay, is he going or not? Because if the corner sinks, then I throw short. And if he doesn't, then I throw. But I don't need to. It's not going to be this kind of progression. When I have a 2 route, probably 3, because you could have a check down underneath the smash. But you finally run a concept that he's good at. Finally, and again, I spoke about this last week's show. The only touchdowns he had thrown through last week, through the last time Mark and I were here, came on smash routes, on that combination. So why are we not running any of that or leveraging that in the first half? Why are we, again, having to go to the second or to the halftime for adjustments to finally get something going? But when we did, Tyler got it going, and there are some things to like. He does maybe trust his arm a little bit too much because he does have a big arm. He, is a freshman, and freshmen are going to make freshman mistakes. Second year, super freshman, first year, whatever. You're going to have freshman mistakes, and you get that sometimes. Also, you're not aided by Carolina coming up with a very ingenious scheme from the linebackers on the RPOs, where basically they just ran to the line of scrimmage and stopped. And that's why that third interception got thrown. Now, they saw something on film, right? So when I used to play baseball in high school, we saw something on film for Summer League. That there was a team, and they would not just kind of go off of first base and take like the secondary lead. They would turn like they were running to second and chop their feet. So it comes to the 9th inning of the championship game, and we pitch out, throw behind them, and pick them off because we'd seen this, or we played them before, so we knew that this was their tendency, right? Similarly, North Carolina saw on film that on the RPOs, the running backs were not finishing the run. When you got the guys, you remember the old, wishbone wing tee when they all ran with their arms like this, and they would just run, and you didn't know who had the ball, but they would finish that fake. And it's the thing where you see the quarterback, okay, hand, and then, okay, I motion the throw, and sometimes it'll catch the camera operator, but that's finishing your fake. Miami's running backs did not finish the fake. They did not run all the way through, particularly Jalen Knighton, and Cam Harris gets injured, Jalen Knighton's in the game. So you figure, okay, if you run an RPO with 4, he's going to stop. And if he stops, as the linebacker for Carolina, you stop. Because why? They're trying to bring you up and throw the slant behind you. So don't run into him. Don't go for the quarterback. If your guy stops, you stop and jump. And that's exactly, go back and look at that last interception. Jalen Knighton goes halfway through, okay, and stops a yard behind the line. The linebacker steps up into that gap, stops. Tyler Van Dyke assumes that there's going to be a collision that never comes because this film study caught them on the other side, and he throws the interception. I guarantee you Carolina saw it on film. It happened more than a couple times with those passes that got knocked down by linebackers in that intermediate between the first and second level of the defense. So that's something that obviously is an area for improvement for both Tyler Van Dyke and the running backs at Miami going through the fakes of the RPO. And, hey, maybe you dial up a double move off of it or something else. You do other kinds of things with it too. But there are traits to like and things that maybe, 5 for 15 in the first half with 2 interceptions. That's a whole 30 minutes of football. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily great. So I've long been a proponent for Jake Garcia, who is another injury. Guy's missing games because of an ankle. You know what I mean? As Miami's quarterback of the future. I still stand with that, but there are some things to like if they go in Tyler Van Dyke's direction. More development will be needed by him and the offense that is supporting him, both in terms of scheme and in terms of personal performance by all of the players on the field moving forward. But he's not – Tyler Van Dyke is definitely not a get him off of my team, he can't play it here person. I just think that I personally would like to see what happens with Jake Garcia of the two.
So we've got a recruiting question coming in. Let's see from our guy, JT Sounds. Good to
JT?
see you as always. Hey, Mark, Cam, based on how the season is trending, what are our chances of landing Wesley, Kelly, and Stewart?
The three players he asked about are Wesley Basaint, number one linebacker from Miami Central High School. Remember, he was the one who is actually better than last year's five-star at that same position, Terrence Lewis. Nigel Kelly, All-American defensive end from Fort Lauderdale. Dillard, who's like undefeated and number 2 in the state in their classification or something like that. And Shamar Stewart, everybody's five-star All-American from Monsignor Pace. The chances are slim and dwindling for all. Shamar Stewart's going to Texas A&M for an official visit this weekend. Miami was in a great spot before, but you start losing and five-stars start looking elsewhere. That's just logic. You got Donnell Harris from Booker T. Washington to go out there a couple of years ago. There was another kid who Miami had dropped from their class who signed with Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher's recruited down here very well. It's easy to sell the come and be the next Myles Garrett with us and also play with all these other 4-star and 5-star guys from the state of Texas and around the country for Shamar Stewart. Nigel Kelly, same thing. He's taking his time with the process, but I'm sure that Miami continuing to lose will not bode well there. And Wesley Basaint has taken all 5 of his official visits, and now he's looking at unofficials and kind of revisiting where he wants to be. But for me, I would be shocked and pleasantly surprised if Miami were to sign any of those 3, Wesley Basaint, Nigel Kelly, or Shamar Stewart. You have – again, this is a similar statement to like I made with the Palmetto 5 last year, where 2 is par and anything over that would be great. For that trio of players, you're happy with 1, you're over the moon with 2, and it don't matter which 2, honestly. Continuing with JT Sounds, what are the chances of Chris Graves flipping? Look, man, talked about it already. Looking at taking some visits. He's a young kid for his grade, just turned 17, so there's a little bit of the mentality that you have to question because he's just younger and everything. And he's been balling. I just saw or was reading this last week's recruit update, recruit recap by Carl Bleich on our website. He had 122 yards and a touchdown. Did Chris Graves playing offense as well as playing defense because of Bishop Verreau, which is, again, where Malik Curtis went. You're going to play both ways. This is a kid who's bigger, longer, like lengthwise, and nearly as fast. Now, Malik Curtis is different kind of fast. He's not that fast, but he's very fast. And this was also Chris Graves who had the hashtag just a visit to Gainesville last week, 2 weeks ago that we talked about on last week's show. I have a bad feeling, and I would get prepared for a business decision or a decision that needs to be respected, an iOS press release on the Notes app, and Chris Graves ending up somewhere else. I just don't. You already saw Traquan Fagans just committed to Alabama after having decommitted from Miami, and with Graves and Kamari Rogers and Fagans, that was you get all those guys by preseason camp. Set it, forget it. That's an incredible 3-man recruiting class at cornerback. One had already flipped, okay, and you beat Alabama and all of them for him the first time. Don't let it get twisted where they say, oh, no. We went in there and did that work and got him and then ruined that sandcastle. Chris Graves, it's all over but for the shouting. Kamari Rogers already taking visits to Ole Miss and Tennessee, I believe it is, where he's looking around. And, yeah, he's done for the year with an ACL injury. Of course, it's very unfortunate. Hopefully his return and recovery is going well and everything for the highest rated of those 3 at the early, stage. But, it could end up where we don't have any of those guys. And we're a couple weeks, 6 weeks ago, we were doing, big time partying and celebrating by getting all 3 of them. I as I sit here right now, I don't think we're going to get any of them. That includes Chris Graves to the direct question. But yeah, not good.
And I got to think that not only has to do with the performance on the field, but it's the performance on the field. Like if Clemson was having a year like this, Dabo Sweeney's not going anywhere. It's a stable situation. You know what the deal is versus who's going to be my head coach? Is the guy recruiting me at my position even going to be on the staff next year?
Yeah, that has to play into it as well. So, I mean, lots of not great going on in terms of Miami recruiting, but, and it's been relatively radio silent, you know what I mean? Which is just not good. Like think of yourself in a personal relationship. That can be a familial relationship, a work relationship, an interpersonal, relationship or whatever. They stop talking to you, things aren't going well, my friend. You know what I mean? And in this sense, like we're not hearing anything. When Manny Diaz is talking about Florida State with their fake momentum on the recruiting trail early, and these guys are visiting, and we're hearing this chatter. I went to this event or that event, and this guy's wearing this, and they're tweeting that, and they're saying this, and da 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 da. When's been any of that? You saw, Gabby Arudi at 247 inside the U, former contributor State of the U. So shout out to Gabby. He was like, yo, I went down to Pace and I went down to Central and I hung out around those practices where Shamar Stewart plays and where Wesley DeSaints plays. So he's out in the field trying to see what's going on because they're not bringing the content to us. They're not bringing any statement. They're not saying anything. These recruits, you know what I mean? And it comes to that point where like, it's so radio silent that now people are having to go and inquire relative to Miami, whereas you were actively at all these games before. You were saying you're going to go to practice on a Sunday. You're going to do all these different things. And there's none of that and really nothing to be seen or heard from. That, to me, is something that, unfortunately, we all have to deal with. But silence speaks volumes, and there's lots of it right now.
We appreciate everybody being here. We appreciate the comments and the questions here in the live chat. To understand that we're going to obviously recognize the super chats first and foremost, and we get to as many comments and questions as we possibly can each and every week. We can't get to them all, but we get to a ton. And again, we've got to accommodate the super chats first and foremost. But I am going to pick off this question: is there a chance Miami could still win the ACC?
Mathematically, yes. Actually, probably not. But, I mean, you got to beat Pittsburgh. So we're at 0-2 in the league. Virginia Tech only has one loss in the league, so they're a game up on us. Virginia has the tiebreaker with 2 losses in the league. Carolina's done in the league now at 3-3, and obviously with the tiebreaker. And Pittsburgh doesn't have any losses in the league. So if you win out, hold on, let me look at the schedule just to be sure. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So if we win out and go 6-2 in the league, that would.
Then you need Pitt to lose one other game.
Then you need Pitt to lose.
Virginia to lose one other game.
Right. Yeah. Right. You need both of those things. So you could tie with Pitt at 6-2, but if you beat them, then you have the tiebreaker, and then you need Virginia to lose another league game, obviously, because they hold the tiebreaker because they came in here and beat us. And is that possible? Let's see what their remaining schedule is like. They play Pitt. Well, but then, and they play Virginia Tech. And so, I mean, you need them to lose one more so you don't have the tiebreaker thing. And I don't think that we would win in a 3-way scenario, but I don't have the 3-way scenario in front of me. So to Anthony's question, mathematically, there is a chance. I don't know how realistic that chance is because it's really predicated on either 5-1 or 6-0 down the stretch from here on out. And the 1 cannot be to Pittsburgh, basically. And you need Pittsburgh and Virginia at least to lose one more game. So there's lots of moving pieces with it. I hadn't even thought of that just because I'm kind of checked out on this. I mean, I'm going to be here and I'm going to, create content through it and watch team and cheer and all those things. But insofar as actually evaluating that, I've kind of checked out on that. But that is a good question. And is technically possible. It will just take a lot of change from what we've seen from pretty much every team in the ACC Coastal, at least, to have Miami in a position to get to the ACC championship game. And that's not even talking about facing up against whoever's going to come out from the Atlantic side of the division.
Yeah, anytime you look at a question like that, there's the math that we just broke down, and then there's also the assessment of how well is the team playing and how well are its competition playing to date. And right now, the thing is that from a talent perspective, sure, even with the injuries involved, the ACC fascinates me because almost anyone can play almost anyone, and who knows what the score is going to be and who's going to win the game. It's that there is not much of a hierarchy this season in the conference compared to the other conferences. And it's just a free-for-all right now. Now, Wake Forest is 6-0 right now. Could they make the college football playoff? Well, absolutely, they could make the college football playoff, but they've got a lot of work to do, and nobody's thinking of that because they've got to go through their 6 most difficult opponents versus the 6 they've already played. So it's not even worth talking about yet, but is it mathematically possible? Yes. So in the same way, Miami, the path is fairly narrow, but it's not astronomically narrow because 6-2, again, just needing a Pitt loss and again a Virginia loss because that would create a tie if they were able to win. But those are not great football teams. They could certainly lose games. Just one other game in addition to losing to Miami if you're Pitt, and then that creates the path for Miami. But we're looking at a team that's lost, I believe the number now is 7 consecutive games against Power 5 opponents. And usually teams through 6 or 7 games have shown us who they are. And to just expect a switch like that on a dime to become some other team is not, it rarely happens. All right.
It's 6. Sorry, I was just looking. It's 6 Power 5 teams in a row. But it's been almost a calendar year. It's been, I just say it was the last 2 of last year and then the first 4 of this year. But
okay,
it's been 300 and coming up on like 20 something days since we beat a Power 5 team since the Duke game December 5th last year. So, I mean, not great, but yeah.
0-6. Okay.
Yeah.
Mohammed, thank you so much for your contribution. Appreciate that. Remember when I said this team reminded me of the 2019 team and you disagreed, Cam? Do you agree now? Manny and Blake will be back next season. Watch.
I mean, yeah. I was proven wrong and you were proven right. You mean, there's not much more I can say about it. For a couple of years went with the, 8-4 or 7-5 and prove me wrong kind of thing. And, this is a season that has been a target season for 10 plus regular season wins and an ACC championship game win for a few years, obviously discounting the Alabama at the top. This has been a target season for 5 seasons since that game was scheduled, 5 going on 6 years. Well, no, sorry, 5 full years. And this is the 6th year since the game was scheduled against Alabama. Yet and still been pointing to this as a season. Like a season, you know what I mean? And you got to be in or got to be out. And I really thought, hey, like this, it's just set up in such a way that if this is going to happen, this is going to be the year. You know what I mean? And I was wrong. I'm already way wrong. They've already lost twice as many games as I thought they were going to lose the entire year to this point, and we're not even out of October yet. You know what I mean? I was in for a dime, in for a dollar. Sorry as I moved my camera there, but I was in, and it didn't come up to that way. And I didn't see the performance regression from everybody that we've seen, basically. And the refusal to play better players still. I didn't see that. And, if you go back and watch, what I use as the logical foundation for what I said, pretty much all of that has been exactly counter opposite to what my thought was preseason. So unfortunately for me, I do have to agree now. And, fortunate for you, yeah, you said it, you called it, you were right. Muhammad, I was wrong on that. I don't know what else to say, buddy, but yeah. And to your point about Manny and Blake being back next season, Blake James is going to be back. He's not getting fired by the university. I don't think the athletic director. I don't think his job is in jeopardy, though I believe it should be. Also, if you're going to fire Manny Diaz, I think that these next 2 weeks are going to tell that story. You have a close loss to Carolina. And that one was one where I was thinking, so I wrote this before the bye and said, if you have two of these three that are lopsided losses, Carolina, Carolina State, and Pitt, two of those three being, big score margins, he's out of here by November 1st. He doesn't make it to Halloween, it's over. But if you find a way to continue to be close, all of that's going to save his job. And whether it's financially motivated, whether it's the fact that they didn't do what needed to be done already, and now you're scared to jump into a coaching market that already has some big name school, because LSU beat Florida, a ranked team, and then said, nah, we're done with the Orgeron. Cool. They're in the market. SC is in the market. You might have a couple other positions and schools and jobs and everything, and you don't want to hop in there and muddy that up and compete against others for who you might want. I think that might inform the decision more than the merits of the play on the field. But to that last point, I'm not rooting for Miami to lose, but if they do lose these next two, there's no foundation. There's no reasonable, logical foundation for Manny Diaz to keep his job. That being said, unless the score lines are big, as in, remember last year, 62-26 to North Carolina? Yeah, why? Because they blew us the hell out and everybody remembers that score. Unless you have something that's like that, or two of those in these next 2 weeks, I think that I would have to agree that he'll be back next year, and I don't like it.
Is everybody hearing that? I never know if that phone goes through the phone system.
Now.
I can't do anything about it because my phone's not close to me, and it's connected to our soundboard, unfortunately, for my call-in system. So we will just wait for it to cease. Sorry about that. All right. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just making neutral, unbiased, hopefully based opinion predictions. And I picked Miami to go 9-3. I take the performance from the year before. I determine, okay, do I think that team overachieved or underachieved? And then the gains and the losses from a personnel standpoint, look at the schedule, make that conversion. And that's what I saw.
Yeah.
All right. Jonathan, thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. Appreciate that, sir. Lane Kiffin versus Mark Stoops. Who has the better record year one if they are Miami's head coach next year? Scenarios given with Zoe being the AD.
Nice. That'd be Alonzo Highsmith for anybody wondering.
Yeah.
I think the better first-year record would be Lane Kiffin. We could have a discussion about who the better third-year record would be. Because even though I'm on the Lane Kiffin train, clearly, choo-choo, the better third or fourth year record might be Mark Stoops. But with a Mark Stoops or a Dave Clawson from Wake or someone like that, the thing about it is you have to be accepting of the time that it takes to build from where you are to where you hope the program can be. And you just have to give it a little bit of time. You know what I mean? And I know people will hear me saying that and then say, hey, why are we not giving Manny Diaz time? Because you had a ready-made program and a ready-made roster and got top-end players to transfer in to bolster the top of that roster when you got here. And you're finding a way to do less with more. You're finding a way to lose games that you should not lose. So this is not a rebuild. This is a guy trying to figure out on the job how to do the job. And that's where things are different. Said it before, saying it again. My first year teaching, mentor teacher told me, you know how people say that you have tricks in the bag that you can use to teach different ways? We're trying to get you a bag this year, because you don't even have a bag to then begin to get tricks to put in the bag. Manny Diaz is still in that state of trying to get a bag to then put tricks in. Because when Mark Richt came here, he had a bag full of tricks. First year didn't go necessarily great, but we won, that bowl game and everything. I'm pulling out different tricks. Boom, you get that 10-0 run in 2017 coming off the back of that. Why? Because I'm doing things because I got experience. I can, It didn't work the third year, but I'm still trying things. I have these methods and techniques that I can use. Manny Diaz clearly doesn't have. And every time that he's trying something, and again, I love the fact that he is courageous to go and try something. What he's trying is not working. And if you have the wisdom of age and experience in a role, then you might know that, And if you're leaning on other coaches, Todd Stroud, when he was a defensive coordinator, he would see a team and say, oh, I remember in 97, they had this quarterback at whatever school, and we were playing, and they did. So we're going to, because he has that. Manny Diaz is still flying without a net as a head coach, and he's trying these other things, and it's with his best intent. And you saw the picture of him standing by himself in his orange quarter zip pullover by himself in the stadium in Chapel Hill last week. I put it up on the website in the Storm Center for Monday. Literally, arms crossed in a Sea of Carolina blue with this bright Miami orange, out there by himself, because I know it's killing him to not be able to figure it out. But sometimes you know what you're doing and sometimes you don't. And again, despite his best efforts and intent, the performance is not where it should be. And I believe that should have already cost him his job. And again, I maintain that it is simply a matter of time, whether this year or next, he is relieved of duties, because it's quite apparent to me that he's just not the guy. And for everybody who wants to say that, for Dabo Swinney in his first whatever, or Nick Saban started at Michigan State for one. And Michigan State then was extra average. And they would come up and they would beat a good team, but they were 7-5, 8-4. I think they were 9-3 a couple of times when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like a literal couple of times. So that was a mid-tier team. And okay, you started there and you built up some stuff and then, whatever. Dabo Swinney, you remember what Clemson was? Clemson was always Clemson, and Clemson wasn't this. So to say, we're going to give time and time and time, the only thing they had to do was give time. The last time they won a championship was 1980. They weren't like that. So there was not that pressure of coming in, and it was different. So the comparison of Manny Diaz to either of those guys is without foundation. I'm sorry, because even in the 17-12 start that Dabo Swinney had, there were glimpses, and the recruiting was getting to a real serious level. Same thing, Nick Saban. It took a while, but he put his imprint on that Michigan State team. That Michigan State team got really good, and then he moved on. One of these things is not like the other, and one of the things that is not like the others is Manny Diaz. And I don't mean that in any kind of good way.
Jonathan, thank you so much for the super chat contribution. I've got a note to make on the Manny Diaz situation here before we get to the super chat. So Manny was hired just hours after taking the Temple job. We have seen 3 coaches succeed to generally the same level at Temple, to the nth degree. In Temple standards, Matt Rule, he's the gold standard, but also Jeff Collins and Al Golden, to a certain extent, succeeded at Temple before they moved on. Now, Manny Diaz, this may have been the opposite of a blessing in disguise, getting the call from Miami when he could have taken the Temple job, learned at a lower level, still playing somewhat big-time college football, and who knows, he might be a better head coach today, having made those mistakes at that level and been preparing himself for a better job. Whereas now, who knows where he's going to land as probably an assistant somewhere and have to kind of reconstruct his career.
Yeah, no, definitely had, a 15-year-old driving a Ferrari, with no learner's permit, kind of a thing. Like, yeah, it's a cool car. It looks great. It's a name brand. All these kind of things, but like, you don't have the skill to effectively drive that car. And I think that we're seeing that that's unfortunately the state that we're in here at the U.
Jonathan, we appreciate the super chat, sir. Cam, do you think Dan Mullen tries to get an interview again for the third time?
Yes. It's funny because, people are saying that that Florida is going to buy him out or look to have a scenario where they come to an agreement that he's not going to continue as their head coach. I could see that. He has definitely raised the floor at Florida from where it was. The ceiling, he's lowered that as well. But going from, consistently or 2 times in 5 years, 4-8, and, 6-6, but he's definitely raised the floor for that program and everything. And he openly begged for the Miami job not once but twice. And Miami turned him down because he's a jerk. Both times. He was at Mississippi State both of those times. He's a prickly personality. He's not easy to get along with. And that was some of the chatter from them, that he was very, it's oil and water. And hey, look, if you shake it up and it becomes a beautiful vinaigrette, then great. But otherwise, it's kind of, and that was the reaction. That's why, we not unfortunately, but we decided to go in a different direction. To Jonathan Fly's question, though, if the chatter is to be believed that Florida is looking to part ways with Mullen, then I very much expect him to try to and likely end up getting an interview. But whenever the job comes open, because then again, going to the previous conversation, though I think it should, I don't believe that it will come open this year, which is a travesty for you and me and every hurricane everywhere. But hey, silly.
Yeah, Dan Mullen took over a program not doing well, as Cam outlined. 2 4-8s, technically a 4-7, but same difference in the span of 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And then he takes it over, and they incrementally improved. New Year's 6 bowls, 10-3, 11-2. Then last year's team was a very odd conclusion to the season, in that if preseason you would have said Dan Mullen in Florida beat Georgia, they win the SEC East, they give Alabama, who is by far the best team in the country, their toughest game, take them down to the wire in a 52-46 SEC championship game, you'd say, wow, great season. But on the other hand, they have some odd event against Missouri where there's a fight on the field, and he precipitates that fight and perpetuates it to a certain extent, doesn't act like a head coach should in that situation. He oddly blames a crowd of 22,000 for being a factor in losing at Texas A&M. He basically gives up in a Cotton Bowl game, unlike what other classy coaches do in situations in which they've lost a litany of star players. They just, hey, all hands on deck. We'll give it a go. We'll do our best. We'll put in a solid effort. We'll give it a go. Dan Mullen basically threw up his hands like, this isn't even my team, and they get annihilated and embarrassed, and that was just not a good look. And, he dresses up as Darth Vader as a news game. It was all sorts of dumb things that went along with a season in which they accomplished a few things. So, all right. In addition to that, here we go. We've got Chuck C. Good to see you. Thank you for the show, guys. I don't live in South Florida anymore, and I don't give big enough donations to have influence, but I'm just rolling with low expectations and rooting for the young men now.
I mean, what else is is there to do. I mean, we can have high expectations. Like I was talking about, 10-2 is what I said for the regular season and everything, and had those high expectations based upon everything, and those have been dashed. Obviously, at this point, you root for them, you play for pride. So, that's pretty much it. But yeah, hey, we're just fans. We root, we talk, we create content, some of us, whatever. But, I'm going to be here always and forever. I'm a Hurricane, so I've said that, through thick and thin. And it's funny, I was this week's State of the Email to the contributors. I was, it wasn't a popular sentiment, but I did say it. And I hate saying it. It's actually way easier creating content when your team is losing than it is when your team is winning. And I unfortunately know that because I've been blogging for over a decade, and there's been seldom, few good seasons where you're doing, and it's a different muscle. Like 2017, I was like, wait, whoa, we gotta, what other new content, like the playoff rankings and, all these things, and wow, yeah, it's a different muscle, but there's infinitely more talking points when you're losing. You know what I mean? We can put out a million things. Now, I don't have the time to write all of them and everything, but we can, there's so much to talk about. What's up with this rotation? What's up with this player? What is this going wrong? There's all of that stuff. And I'll be here for it, but I'm always wanting and hoping that Miami's going to be great and, everything. But like you, rooting for the kids, let's play for pride, put on for the U. Hopefully the performance improves, but beyond that, that's what we're getting this year.
You brought up the name a second ago, and I've not heard it yet, but my goodness, Dave Clawson's a good coach.
Man, he is. It's not flashy. It's not fun to watch sometimes, but it's darn effective. And I don't know that Miami has it in them to have a 5-year plan and go with the 3.5, 4 that's going to be the foundation to get to the 5+. You know what I mean? This is not so 22, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're talking about not really being anything more than pluckily competitive until 2026. You know what I mean? 6-6 is okay because we instilled this, we did this, we took this step forward. 7-5 the next year, okay. 6-6 the third year, it's okay because foundationally to the program we had this development while still but we're 2 years away from that. I don't know.
You don't think he could come in and win immediately or close to immediately?
I haven't seen him do it. Is the thing. He's a program builder, which is great, but the downside, I'm talking about, it takes time. I've never seen him come into a job, bang, and win 9 or 10. That's what gives me pause about it.
Yeah, it took him a while there. Yeah.
Exactly. You
They
have to lay the foundation,
but that's at
develop those guys. That's what I'm talking about. Put the time in, develop the guys, get the offensive line, get you a quarterback, get the receiver, put it all together, build it, grow them, develop them in your style, have everybody buy in, understand the system holistically as you're changing over from whatever was before. That's what I'm saying. I think it might, and again, he's a very good coach and proven if you give him time, it will work. I don't know that mine is a job where we can be middling at best for 4 years to get the payoff in 5. And again, this is also looking at Wake Forest at this point in the season, which is 6-0, and we don't even know how good they really actually are.
Yeah.
Even though they beat Clemson. No, they didn't.
No.
That was NC State. Sorry, that was NC State who beat Clemson. You know what I mean? So they're 6-0.
Yeah, they're not.
Right.
They're 8-4. Their last 4 games are tough. Maybe 9-3, 10-2. But anyway, then why does somebody and there's not too many of these guys. There might only be 2 guys. Why does Urban Meyer, why would he be able to step on campus? And most people would think they're going to win.
Because he's done it. Again, on the opposite side of Dave Clawson, Urban Meyer did it everywhere he was. Bowling Green was terrible. 2 years, they're very good. Utah, same thing. Everywhere he's gone, absent of the Jaguars, which is its own thing. But literally,
the collegiate
4 jobs
level.
in college as a head coach. Bowling Green, look it up. Utah, look it up. Florida, they still talk about those championships, and they have a statue to Tim Tebow and a speech that he made after losing to Ole Miss because they've never gone undefeated in the program or the history of their program. But that's up on the wall in perpetuity. But they had those championships up there, and then goes to O State, turned them in, or took that program, which is the one that I hate the most of all, but a very good program, and took it to a new level of performance excellence. Everywhere he's gone has happened. So the track record's there.
Jonathan, thank you so much. Appreciate that, sir. If Mario, Lane, or Mark, meaning Cristobal, Kiffin, Stoops, comes next year, do you expect an influx of alumni on the sidelines given the relationship they have with these men?
I would expect so. I mean, it's what makes Miami great. You know, having those guys come back and work out in the offseason and push these guys, on campus to be better. Now there have been fewer and fewer over the course of time because there's fewer and fewer top-end superstars in the league, but they still exist. And those guys, maybe they're, further from their playing days, but, they were coached. Mark Stoops coached defensive backs. Go look at who was all in that room, including the late, great Sean Taylor. You know what I mean? Mario Cristobal was here for 2 years. I mean, not 2 years. He was here as an undergrad and won 2 championships and coached here as well. You should be seeing these guys on the sideline. They should be here for these big games. And it shouldn't just be, the 20th anniversary or 25th anniversary of the 91 championship team, and then Leon Searcy tweeting snarkily, smoking a cigar because the game that his championship team was honored ended up being a blowout. Like, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, where's the Notre Dame game, 8:00 ABC spotlight game that has everybody come back? You see it at LSU, famously, Odell Beckham, if you don't know it, LSU plays the song Neck by Cameo, Talking Outside Your Neck. It's a band song. It's an incredible fanfare. It's awesome. LSU has taken that and they've put their own little twist to the chant, if you will, which is quite vulgar and has been admonished by the SEC conference saying, if you play this, that everybody's going to chant those vulgar words, so we're going to fine you. LSU has a night game in Death Valley, which everybody knows is a showcase game, one that I want to go to against somebody sometime in my lifetime. Odell's on the sideline with them. They're blowing somebody out. And he said, hey, play it. I'll pay the fine. Fine's like 6 figures. Fine's like $250,000. I got you. Cue it up. Da, 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 da. And there go the whole thing. Look it up on YouTube right now. Mark is smiling because he knows what the chant. Bro, it is. You're going to hear them chant the chant and be like, did they? Yes, they did just say what you thought they said. But the energy was there. It was. I forget which game it was. I think it was a national championship year. But look, all the alumni were there. The energy was electric. He said, this is what makes us us. The SEC can't tell us not to do it because you know why? I'm going to pay for y'all to play that. You want to talk about a jukebox? Man's paid almost $300,000 for them to play a song in the stadium. Right? Where's that energy at Miami? Where's that night game when everybody's on the sideline? Look, I've been on the field. Y'all know I was the high energy fan of the game. I got credentials, and everything. I've been there. I've seen how they segregate. You can have them all from the 20 on down because the team has to stay in the box, which is between the 20s anyway. So you got room. Well, we got 3 different cheerleading squads. Put the female cheerleaders with the Sensations one game and keep the other section for the alumni. You got the room for it. It should be that at Miami, but you're trying to be nice and prim and proper and everything like Thaddeus J. Foote, who was the president of my freshman year or whatever. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is not who we are. This is not the program that we are. And it's not the way that we should be. So, yes, I hope whoever the coach is, and if Manny Diaz is listening to this, then he needs to let them, all of the alumni back. That's what, if you look at all of the games from the Orange Bowl, that were everywhere here for the program. Talk about you family, but you want to talk about you family, but your family can't come over your house? Come on, dog.
Said this many times. It's commonplace now to see alumni on the sideline during an NFL bye week for that particular team, for them to stop by or whatever. Or if their team plays the Labor Day weekend before the NFL gets in session the next week, those sorts of things. It's common practice. But I may be off on this, but to my recollection, Miami was the first that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Look at all these dudes are on the sidelines, and Warren Sapp's there, and then it seemed like a few years later, several years later, whatever. Okay, you start seeing this all over the place.
The originators and innovators. Again, that's what I'm talking about. But then going away from that, why? Because they're not Miami. These guys who put on the orange and green and white, who played at the Orange Bowl or at Hard Rock Stadium, they're not Miami enough to like be on a sideline? Are you kidding me, bro? Are you kidding? What do you think that they're gonna do? You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. It don't make sense.
We'll honor this super chat, but I did want to catch this question real quick just to give NC State some play, since that is the opponent this week. And I think it should be noted that for as well as NC State's playing, and they're coming off a 33-7 win against Boston College at Boston College. Good team, solid team, top 35-40 team, beat them 33-7, playing some really good football. They did lose it in Mississippi State, as somebody noted in the live chat, 24-10. Devin Leary, really good quarterback, 15 TDs, 2 picks. He didn't play the game that De'Ara King brought back Miami last year, 44-41. Bam Knight, really good running back. Ricky Person as well. Emeka Azizi, really good wide receiver, so forth and so on. Really good team, but they're not invincible. Vegas has made this like a 1.5 or 2 point spread. It's not like NC State's a 20-point favorite. So it's not some mammoth, giant college football power coming in. NC State's a good team. They're a top 25 team. So Miami could win the game.
Mm-hmm. Could. You know, it would be nice to figure out a way to play competitive football before halftime. You know, Manny Diaz, I believe, is 0 for his career, if not leading after the first quarter. You know, like maybe figuring that out or something. Or, I mean, hey, what's stopping Miami from going up to a 17-0 lead on somebody? Because we've seen other teams do that. You know, and I know that the statement always wants to be, well, it's tough to win games and like, yeah, but it doesn't always have to be tough. You know what I mean? Like you're allowed to blow teams out. You know that, right? You know, it's like when you see, I watch a lot of basketball, obviously. I was a basketball player. I don't know if obviously, because I don't tweet about it anymore as much as I used to. But even watching like college basketball, it frustrates me to no end when you get the ball on the offensive side of half court and wait for the defense to get set and then come play man-to-man. Why? Well, I mean, the defense, who can't go? You know what I mean? Like, go score the ball. You don't have to, oh, well, you get it and swing and there's nobody in front of you. Oh, well, I don't know what to do, and I'm just going to sit out here and make love to the basketball and just dribble it and wait for them to come up. No, you don't have to do that. You can play the game, and if they choose not to be there or whatever, then just go. But Miami is that point guard who's scared about shooting or scared about going to the basket because they think the coach is going to yell at them this entire program. So instead of going to begin with, they say, I'm going to wait till they're ready, and I'm just going to sit out here and just, show out my dribbling tricks, and I'm going to wait. Okay, then I'm going to call motion 2, and then I'm going to initiate everything when they're ready to be the opposition. Why are we waiting for them? Why are we not coming out first and hitting them in the mouth? You know what I mean? That's not a thing. That's not a part of the mentality that Manny Diaz has. Manny Diaz has the mentality that it needs to be tough and you have to go through trials and tribulations to win games. Sometimes you're going to have to. Sometimes it's going to be tough. Other times you come out and blow some months out. But I mean, not if you're a Manny Diaz coach team, because blowing somebody out, that would be unnice, and that's not something that we're trying to do here. So think about that mentality versus Jimmy Johnson in the U. While y'all throwing the ball at the end of the game, our third stringers, our second and third stringers want to play too, so we run the offense. You don't like it? Stop us. Think about the disparity in the thought that we're seeing clearly from a Manny Diaz coach team, which has to be a slog uphill through the mud and the sleet and the snow to get anything done, versus we're going to do what we're going to do, and if we blow y'all out, that's y'all fault because y'all weren't good enough. I like the latter, not the former that we're seeing.
Also, to your point, Jimmy Johnson did it in the way in which you just outlined. He had the second and third stringers in against Notre Dame in particular. He did it other times, but that's the famous example. And shoot, if our guys are in the heat and humidity, busting their tails practicing, and their second and third stringers that never see the field and they get the opportunity, let them play and let them cut loose and go.
I've talked on here, wax poetic about freshman Frank Gore, because freshman Frank Gore was even in the Hall of Famer you're seeing, freshman Frank Gore, go look up the film. He was out of there, and would run inside zone or dive up the middle and to get loose for 85 yards. But then you're like, oh, there's running. We ran an inside run play. What do you want that he got through, broke your linebacker, and was fast enough to outrun the angle from everybody in the secondary? That's not my fault. We ran it up the middle. Right? So I don't even need to chuck it up there like I'm playing NCAA on my PS3 and throw it deep every single play. But the mentality of even the second string is going to come in and we're going to bust your ass. Then, well, it's really tough to win games, and we just had to kind of It's just this. It's this neutered thought, of like it's the depression of greatness. Like you're not even going towards that. It's like we have to rely on this to be competitive at whatever level, and it has to be this par level thing. Whereas if I'm the coach, and what I know from the Miami Hurricanes is we're better than you, and we're going to beat you because we're better than you, and we're going to go and talk about it and prove it. The late, great Al Blade said, come on, you know what it is? Hit stick, bust stick, talk shit. We're going to do all of those things. Instead, we want to just have this nice guy mentality and everything and just not. And like being a nice guy is fine. But like, there's no edge. It's just, that's depressing.
Cam, if you got a minute, we've got two other super chats. And I may ask this super chat and turn the volume down or walk away from here because of the coach that's being brought up here by Valdez. Miami should hire Hugh Freeze and stop pursuing Mr. Nice Guy coaches.
No. There's a short list of people who are disqualified who I will not support. He's among at the top of that list. Absolutely not. No. Period. And if you don't know why, go look up the press clippings, go look at the stories. Just no, absolutely not. I mean, like Hugh Freeze, Art Briles, no, hard stop. I'm not even entertaining that. And like, not even, I'm not even saying anything for comedic effect. I'm not even joking. No.
And you can hire plenty of hard-nosed, whatever term you want to put on it, guys with swag, with the Jimmy Johnson vibe, all those things that didn't do unethical things. All right. We got Brandon chiming in. Manny's Miami slow starts, won't be able to mount a comeback as T25 North Carolina State.
Defense.
They are equal to or better than Michigan State. Same results, 31-20 North Carolina State.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Again, with the coach who's never had a comeback win when trailing after the first quarter of a game, but always being out schemed, always being out coached, always being on the back foot, being reactionary, not proactive. You know what I mean? Like, and it's every week. You know, it's not like once here and there. And I'm not talking about against Central Connecticut goddamn State. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, Romello Williams went to Miramar. My last year working there, he was the quarterback, and I got to call the games. Good for him. You know, that he got a scholarship and he's playing college football at the FCS level. That's a cool story. Connection for me, myself personally, because I worked where he went to high school at the time. But come on, bro. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the one game where you come out smash mouth. That's the one where you really come out and dominate or something. You know, like, and I dare and defy you to find another one. I mean, that's not a FCS team from when Manny Diaz has been a coach. You know, we're always out coached every week, out schemed. They have, you know, every other team has the teacher's edition with the answers in the back. So they watch the film against Miami and they're like, cool. And then they have the answers and all the answers work. And we have the wrong textbook. You know what I mean? Where it's like, well, they did something different or blah, 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 blah. Why are we not ever showing something to another team that's not been on film? How are we not ever doing any of these things? That's where this comes into play time and time again. And also as well, in addition, you get to add another loss to Manny Diaz's record following a bye week, which I believe is now 1-6 or 7 after a bye week as a head coach. So you would think extra time to prepare. We're going to go and win after that. Wrong. Like, come on. Like, you can't keep having these kinds of performances. I mean, you can, unfortunately, if you're Manny Diaz, but it's not great. And to Brandon's point, you know, of an 11-point North Carolina State win, I think it's going to be a little closer than that. You know, the line is NC State -3 right now. I saw it opened at 3.5. I saw on Vegas Insider that their Vegas Insider line started at Miami as a 2-point favorite, which is crazy. But I think it's going to be maybe a little bit of a closer game than that. But I think that we're going to find a way to lose because despite the best efforts, despite, you know, furious comebacks and, you know, things changing in second halves, like that's what Miami has done. You know, they've been close, but they still find ways to lose games. And I think that this is going to be another one that Miami loses.
Manny did have 48-0 on Duke last year and 52-10 against Florida State.
Okay. Yes, did. But okay, true. Yeah, you're right.
Before we leave, I'm going to give you one other name.
Oh, God.
And this is a guy that you talked about extensively because you had to face him this year. And he came into Hard Rock, and he talked the talk and walked the walk, and he's 7-0 at Michigan State right now. What about Mel Tucker? It's a small sample size.
It is a small sample size at Michigan State.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he was at Colorado. They had a good year. It was the one. I know.
5-7.
They were 5-7 that year?
I'll double check. I usually remember these things.
Or did they start really well or something?
They had a good year under Carl Durrell the next year, but he took a team that was supposed to be awful, and their 5-7 was competitive. You know.
Okay. I mean, and you remember those records of things like that. You know, of coaches who are more general than like specific, because I'm specific towards Miami-ish thing, but I defer to you on that. But
yeah, 5-7, 3-6 in the conference.
Okay. But yeah, no, Mel Tucker came and talked the talk and walked the walk, and did that. I would love to see a little bit more explosion on offense than what Michigan State offers. They're definitely physical. Always have been. Definitely, really dynamic in the running game. Kenneth Walker just made some other Miami defenders miss tackles because he forced, I think it was literally 22 or 23 missed tackles that day. So yeah, there was that. Mel Tucker definitely has more passion than Manny. Manny is the son of a politician. He has the edge. Manny is the son of a politician and talks like it. You can tell, like, oh, like I grew up in a household of somebody who's been in politics my entire life. He speaks that way. And look, you can call it for better or for worse. It is what it is. All right. But I mean, Mel Tucker's a well-traveled defensive coordinator with lots and lots of excellence to his performing resume. And in his third year as a head coach, seems to have figured out lots of things that Manny Diaz still has questions about or is confused about. Would he be at the top of my list? No. Would I take him as an upgrade over Manny Diaz every day of the week and twice on Sunday?
Cam Underwood, State of the U, doing a phenomenal job for us each and every week here at the Voice of College Football. So we would ask you a few things. Please like these videos. Just don't enjoy it and walk away. Please at least like the videos. You can also contribute on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. You bypass YouTube if you understand that. But Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App, I would only ask that you would put some kind of notation about Cam on that contribution. Otherwise, what's going on at State of the U?
You know, we're back in game mode or game week mode, so lots of content. I'm trying to finish something up for tomorrow, different kind of editorial commentary, which I think is you would enjoy, I believe, for a variety of reasons. But hopefully I get it finished tomorrow. I wanted to get it finished today, but unfortunately my boss called me. We had a pop-up impromptu meeting on my day off, which took away my content creation time today. I'm sorry about that. But otherwise, you know, got a film preview from Justin Tavio is going up tomorrow. Got some other things that are popping through the weekend. You got your ACC rooting guide always. John Reynolds is on that. You know, I will be going to the game. I will be going to the game this weekend. So that means the return of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, I do apologize that for I believe the first time since I've been in charge of that at State of the U, we didn't have it last week just because I went out with my friends and got lit. You know, but it happens. So we got all that and more in Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at The State of the U. The website is stateoftheu.com. My personal Twitter account is at Underwood Sports, where I'm learning about a new show on Amazon that is supposed to be trying to be the new Game of Thrones, apparently, or something. So, you know, come follow with us and come fan with us and keep the conversation going. We appreciate it.
And since we've got a decent crowd, real quick, on here, I will remind some people that we're on Patreon, and I was 12-6 against the spread last week, 85-58 for the season against the spread. So keep that in mind for $5 a month. There at the Voice of College Football. Just search Mark Rogers TV on Patreon. Mark Rogers TV on Patreon. Cam, we appreciate it.
And also, if you're talking about against the spread, our resident pixologist, Craig T. Smith, has a very strong record this year that either rivals or exceeds Mark's, I believe, from the last time that I looked at it. It's in the same ballpark overall for the season. So, you know, hey, got that too.
Yes, I have never claimed to be an odds maker or handicapper in any such way. It's just something I do fairly well.
Clearly, 85-58. I mean, that's winning money every time. And
good stuff, Cam. We appreciate it, man.
No worries, guys. We'll see you.